In this session today, I'm going to be discussing about pain and with the astrology of pain, because pain and astrology, you'd think, how could they possibly be linked? Well, there is a thing in astrology called medical astrology, and basically it's just a flashy term for pointing out that you can I'm not saying you can make a diagnosis from someone's birth chart. Sometimes you can, but what's more important is that you can diagnose, maybe diagnose is the wrong word, that you can determine when someone's health will improve or possibly either improve or get better or worse. And you can tell a lot of that from a chart. So today I'm going to be discussing the chart for Kate, and this is Kate's chart here. So in the centre of the circle here, where all the planets were on the day that she was born. So there's her sun is in the sign of Sagittarius, because that symbol there is the sun, and then this little bit at the side here gives you more details. So the sun's in Sagittarius, moon's in Pisces, and Mercury's in Scorpio, blah blah blah. Now we have had a discussion, and Kate and me, and this is what she says, that she has MS, and the pain is worse in her lower back from T10 to L3, where there's significant nerve damage due to transverse myelitis, and she also has a generic widespread pain due to the multiple sclerosis. She says she's lived in pain for a while, but it got worse in April 2014, and my date of diagnosis for both conditions was the 29th of April 2014. Now, having an actual date when something happens is in astrology is just so useful. It just it answers lots of questions. So what we're going to do, so this is the birth chart here. If you imagine that in the center is the Earth spinning in space, and this across here from left to right is the horizon. We can see that her chart starts, because this is always the starting point of the quarter to nine. It's called the ascend, and her starting what we call her rising sign is Taurus, sun sign Sagittarius, and her moon's Pisces. Those are the basic things that we need to know, but we need to go back to that date that she's talked about. So she said that her diagnosis was the 29th of April 2014. Now at the moment I've got today's date, 25th of 3rd 2017, so we want to go 2014. We're going to go backwards, 2014, and I've got to remember because the brain's not working, 29th of April. So let's go to the 29th of April 2014, and let's look and see what's happening astrologically. So immediately I'm going to go, aha, here's the little fella here. So this is Saturn, and Saturn is the planet of restriction. So it's the planet of authority, do the right thing, you've got to pay your phone bill and your car tax and stuff. It all comes under Saturn. But Saturn is the planet of restriction as well as responsibility. But the sort of on the downside of it is that you can feel very restricted under a Saturn transit. Now, as you'll see in her chart, she's got majority 9 planets pretty much clustered together, with the moon a little bit out on its own there. So when a planet comes past, and I'll just move the computer forwards day by day. So there's the moon, and we're going to just go day by day by day. See, so there's the moon moving. Here he is, and he's going round the zodiac. So that's one way of explaining what actually happens during a transit. There's something comes past where it was when you were born. So this is your born planets. This is Saturn coming past, and when she was born, Saturn was in the sign of Virgo, and when we get to this date, the 29th of April 2014, and she was born in 1979, so she's hold on, I've got to do the maths there. 2014, 1979 is 5, and it's 8, 9, 10, 11. So she's 35 at this point. She's already had her Saturn return, so Saturn would have taken 28 to 30 years to get to there, back to where it was when she was born. Boom, 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 boom. Now, but because the nature of the way that her chart goes, Saturn is the planet that generally causes problems. Yeah, so it's already returned and it's going in this direction. So it went through the sign of Libra and she was reasonably okay, but then it started going through the sign of Scorpio, and look, she's got her Mercury in the sign of Scorpio. There's Saturn. So that date was significant for her there. And if I just go forward month by month, so this is the month button here, look, there's Saturn. Oh my God, he's doing a retrograde at that point. Then he starts going forwards. And we've got now to December 2014, she'd be feeling absolutely shit, because Saturn Same thing happened to me. I've got Sun in the 7th house. Saturn came into my sign. I'm a Pisces. Ping, at that moment, my husband decided to run off with another woman. So it's not necessarily physical pain that will be caused by Saturn, but there will be some aspect of pain in some way, depending on, what way your chart is constructed. So this is just a live demonstration of what can happen to your birth chart via a transit if it's a planet you haven't got a particularly good how can I put it now, I haven't got a very good relationship with it. So her own Saturn here, so there's her Saturn. So in Kate's natal birth chart, her Saturn is square to her Venus. I don't know if it's square to anything else. I can't see because I've used the wrong form of jobby bobby. No, okay, so that's the only thing that's square. And there's her Venus. They're the two things. They're not happy and chatty with each other. But when we get to the date that she said, which was 2014, so the actual date she got the diagnosis, she wouldn't have been feeling too marvellous anyway, because Mercury is the planet of thinking, and Saturn comes along and hits your thinking planet. You're going to be thinking slightly more negative thoughts. So she was in a pretty much critical place on the 29th of April. But as we go forwards in time, you see, look, it doesn't take long. It's only till the end of the year, and then bing, it goes into sign of Sagittarius, and she is a Sagittarius. So she'll be starting to feel from that point in time, from December 2014, her whole life has imploded. Without exaggerating, but I'm sure that's how it felt, right? So let's go forward to today, and today we're the 20-something, 25th of March. So I'm going to go by month, but watch this little chappy here, yeah? So she's, look, there's another retrograde going on in May. Look, it's going backwards. It's not going forwards. Oh, so that was rubbishy. October last year, so I'm asking you now directly, Kate, was it rubbish for you in October last year? Let me go forwards now. So we're beginning, and Saturn is beginning to move a bit. It's not totally shifted. We're the 25th. Let's go to the 25th today. Bing, 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 bing. 25th, I think the moon's in Pisces today. There we go. Yeah, so the moon's in Pisces, and Saturn has almost finished going through the sign of Sagittarius, but we need to be careful because it hasn't finished. It's probably going to do another retrograde. So let's just go forwards. Yep, there it is. It's retrograding again this year. So it retrogrades quite back a few degrees up until September. But I can guarantee this particular lady, when we get to November this year, the cause, and I'm using the word cause gently here, one of the reasons is the words I'm looking for, the reason for the restriction, the sense of restriction in her life, which can be interpreted as pain. When we get to November this year, we go, okay, so we can say to this particular client, things are going to get better. But the nature of her birth chart, that every time Saturn does this transit, I'm not saying her whole life falls apart, but it ain't particularly marvellous. And as we know, when she was in her late, I think it was 35 when this happened, yeah. But when she was 28, Saturn was returning. So this won't happen again now, because Saturn takes about 30 years to go around the zodiac. So this won't happen again until she gets back to her next Saturn return, which is 60. So we need to point out that Saturn is not a fluffy planet, and you have to learn what Saturn's all about. Saturn is about restriction, authority, do the right thing. Let's tick those boxes. Let's pay. She's a Sagittarius. They don't really respond very well to Saturn. Saturn's just a little bit too restrictive, yeah, and too what's another word to describe Saturn? It sort of makes is the wrong word. Saturn wants you to behave, and if you're a non-behaving type of person, it's a pretty difficult thing, yeah. But we get to November this year. Saturn now, as I go forward, I'm going to go by month, okay. La 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 la. She's got nothing in the sign of Capricorn. 0 there, so it spends a few years in the sign of Capricorn. Where are we now? Blah blah blah. So I don't anticipate anything to be happening for our Kate at all until we get to her moon there. So it might be 2023, and just to be remembering that when she hasn't got a good relationship with Saturn, some people do, but in this case this particular client doesn't. When Saturn starts to go into the sign of Pisces, because her moon is 0 degrees Pisces, so there we are. March 2023, just be aware of how you feel. The moon is how you feel. So Saturn comes along, so she'll need some extra TLC in 2023. But after that, when Saturn moves, here he is now, there's nothing in her chart in these signs, and we can go forwards quite a long way. And we're going to go, because we're watching Saturn, there is it now, we're going forwards in time. We're not going to have repeat performance of this until, let's go to about 2036, so there's plenty of time to get yourself organised and back on track. Yeah, and then the Saturn returns again when we get to round about, it's a bit late, Saturn returns in 2038. So Kate, you've got quite a bit of time before Saturn does this thing again, keeping in mind that the way to cope with the Saturn transit is to just behave yourself. Don't push yourself further than you are capable of going. Remember, it's the planet of restriction, not what's the opposite of restriction? To restrict is to expand. Brains not working. Okay, so you can't expand under a Saturn transit. So when we get to 2038, again, restrict what you're doing. So don't eat too much sugar. Don't run too fast. Take life at a slower pace. So let's go back to today. We're 2017 and we're the 20-something, 25th of March. Just that's the 25th? Yeah, 25th of March. So that's just a little explanation of what has happened in this particular person's case. Now we can also look at things like earth, air, fire and water, and I've made a note here that in Kate's chart her issue is in her lower back. I mean, we can there are parts of the body that are ruled by different the back is up here normally in the 10th house, but we don't need to go into this particular video, but her chart is pretty low in air. I think her only air planet is Pluto in Libra, because this is fire, water, water, fire, earth, 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 water, fire, one air planet. And air is the element that helps us think and helps us make decisions and helps us study and use our brains, and air is all about the thought process and learning and stuff. So she's got her only one planet here, her Pluto in the sign of Libra, but look, there's Jupiter at this precise moment in time, is right smack bang on her Pluto. And I think her Pluto, yeah, it does nice aspects in her chart. Look, she's got a nice little sextile going on there. That's an in conjunct, we don't need to fret too much, but it sends, it's her Pluto and her Neptune are having a nice conversation with each other. They're not at odds. But here's Jupiter coming on. This is the planet of faith and belief, so she needs to have faith in herself, and I think that's in her this is the section of the chart to do with health. So she needs to have faith and belief in her own ability to recover. She doesn't need to get her recovery from somewhere or something else. She could do it herself. So hey Kate, you could do it. So there we go, just a little explanation of Saturn and the Saturn transit and how that can absolutely correspond to a particular date in your life when something negative might have happened that might have caused or been a contributing factor to this word here we're looking at, pain. So thanks very much.